Hey guys, what's up? It's Gina. I wanted to take a second today to do a locals only adventure, something that tourists aren't really gonna think about, but I think it's important to the history of our Commonwealth. And also it's really kind of cool. So I'm here at Ferry Plantation House and I'm gonna check out the story of Grace Sherwood. So if many of you don't know, Grace Sherwood is actually known as the Pungo Witch. Now, for a little backstory on Grace. Grace was born in 1660 or so. And she was the only child of a farmer and his wife. And according to the scholarly research, her dad taught her how to farm, how to read the land, how to read the weather, so she would be a success. Fast forward a few years, she gets married, she has 3 kids. Sadly, her husband passes away and she's left to run an entire farm with just her 3 boys. But Grace is very successful at this. Kind of makes the neighbors mad because they're not as cool as Grace is. So they start talking about, oh, she must be a witch because everything is going so great for her and it's going so horrible for the rest of us. So of course she has to be a witch, right? Right. All right, so we're on our way to where the ducking occurred. If you've never heard of a ducking before, basically, they tie your thumbs together, they tie your wrists together, and then they tie the whole shebang to your ankles, and they put you over in the water. Okay? If you float, you're a witch. If you sink, you're not a witch. Okay, great news, you're not a witch, but you're also dead. So what's the point in that? Back then in 1706, it was illegal for a witch to be executed in the state of Virginia, which is crazy, considering they were just going to throw an innocent person overboard and kill him anyway. Makes no sense to me. But we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, guys, we're here and this is crazy. I mean, I imagine it looked a lot different back in the 1700s when Grace was led down this path. Her hands and thumbs tied together. I can hear the rustling in the leaves and she must have heard exactly the same thing. Grace must have heard the crowd of onlookers booing and hissing, screaming witch, throwing things at her, hoping she does something that'll confirm their suspicions. But I don't think Grace was that foolish just yet. I think she had a better plan. Okay, so I'm guessing that this is roughly the location where Grace was loaded into a boat. We're in the beginning of August, which is roughly a month after Grace's ducking. So this must have been exactly what it was like for her to be here. Now, after her hands and feet were bound together, she was loaded onto a boat. And they didn't do it at the shore, right here, where she could easily stand up. They rowed out. And they shoved her overboard, but not after putting a 13-pound Bible around her neck. 13 pounds, you guys. That's, what, 2 12-packs? 13 pounds. Can't imagine what it must have felt like. But you know what? I don't think Grace was scared at all. Because Grace knew exactly what her future held. She knew exactly what she was going to do. As she disappeared beneath the murky depths of this water, everybody started feeling bad. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, we were wrong. Maybe she wasn't a witch. Somebody help her, please. Get her out. Fish her out. And all of a sudden, Grace sprang to the water's surface and laughed. She laughed at all of them. And she looked around and she said, mark me. Today, you all will receive a worse ducking than I. So the skies began to cloud over, but nobody noticed that. Everybody was too shocked by Grace popping out of the water. She was a witch. After all, they were vindicated. Grace knew exactly what to look for. The clouds began to roll in. The leaves on the trees began to curl into themselves. Now, skeptics will tell you that this is just nature. Nature preparing for an upcoming storm. Okay, sure. But why? Did it prepare for the upcoming storm because Grace cast a spell as she sank? Did it know somehow that torrential rains, lightning, was going to fall from the sky and affect everybody around? And that's exactly what happened. The skies opened up, the rain came, lightning sparked, thunder clapped, and everyone was terrified. You guys, they were scared to death. So they all jumped in their wagons and tried to get out of here. But you know what? They didn't have paved roads back then. They had this. They had this dirt, clay, sand stuff. And what happens when it gets wet? You sink. So everybody's cute little wagons, everybody's pretty dresses, fancy suits, done in the ditches. Everybody was nasty, muddy, disgusting, and soaked. Just like Grace was. So they all received a worse ducking than she that day. So guys, I think my time here is up. I think I'm gonna go and head to the jail. It's church now. Ironic, right? But I'm gonna go head to the place where they had Grace jailed for 8 years and see what that looks like. Come on. All right, so we're gonna head out of here and go about 3 minutes away where Grace's jail cell was located. Now on the way, the governor, the judge, the whatever guy that was there, convened a jury of women that were supposed to search Grace when they got to the jail. And what they were looking for was anything weird. I'll get to what's weird a little bit later, but what they found were 2 little black marks on her body. And that made her a witch right there. So she was taken down here and put in a jail cell for 8 years. It's kind of a shame, isn't it? That looks so pretty behind me, doesn't it? Can you imagine? All the doors opening up to reveal all of the good Christian non-witch folk inside, while Grace spent 8 years in a room that was probably no bigger than this tiny little bell tower. Now, I'm not a tall girl. I'm cheating a little bit today, folks. I'm wearing heels. And this is where Grace spent 8 years of her life stuck in here. Now, eventually, all of those wonderful people realized that maybe they'd made a horrible mistake. Because when they lost Grace, they lost their healer, they lost their helper, and they lost a confidant for some. So what did they do? They gathered up all of their bravery possible. And they would come to see Grace and ask her advice on things. And they would bring her little cakes and probably some more baked goods, bread, cookies, things like that, little trinkets, little gifts. And they would ask for her help. But you know what nobody ever did? Nobody ever asked for Grace's forgiveness. Finally, after spending 8 years in this, Grace was released. And after paying the taxes owed on her farm, she was able to return to her sons and continue living out her days on the farm she loved. We're standing in front of Ferry Plantation House, which is the center building, is where the foundation of the courthouse stood, where Grace was tried and convicted. So let's hop inside and check out a little bit of her life, shall we? As we enter the house, it dawns on me that it didn't look anything like this during Grace's trial. This plantation is representative of what the wealthier houses looked like back in the 1700s. This was definitely not the kind of house a humble farmer like Grace was used to. This house replaced the original courthouse. So as we look around, it's important to remember that this space was open for judges, the accused, and a jury of her peers? I stopped to take a picture in front of this beautiful window and suddenly realized behind me is the hanging tree and an Indian burial ground. But I'll get to that a bit later. Upstairs housed the jury deliberation room. As we pass the slave tags hanging by the fireplace, we ascend the stairs to reach the jury room. Really ironic, isn't it? We have to pass slave tags to reach a group of people who are going to judge someone else. Is that a cauldron? So the hanging tree. Oh, this tree is enormous. And it's weird to be standing here with these modern, beautiful homes in the background and knowing that if you were put on trial here and you were sentenced to death, there was no appeals process. There was no arguing the fact that you were going to hang from one of these giant branches until your neck snapped or until you stopped breathing. It's very surreal to be here. It's like, I don't even have the word for it. It's humbling. It's definitely something to think about. People now, when they're convicted and sentenced to death, they sit on death row for 20, 30 years. We just wait. And back then it was quick as a snap of your neck. You know what makes it even weirder? So we learned while we were in the house that these tennis courts are built over an ancient Indian burial ground. Okay, which in itself is just wild to me. Like, how much greed do you have to have in your heart for your workers to tell you they found ancient bones and you say, forget it, put the tennis court over it anyway? I almost don't want to walk past it. Because we don't know for sure where it stops and starts. They just said the tennis courts. So, I mean, for all we know right now, we're walking over a burial ground. She doesn't look scary. She doesn't look witchy. But isn't that the whole point? So 300 years after she was convicted, Governor Tim Kaine actually handed down a pardon for Grace Sherwood. And it's right here on the edge of her statue. So I did a little research. I wanted to look at some things. I wanted to see what it was that convinced everyone so wholeheartedly that this woman was a witch. Grace hit a lot of these. She checked a lot of these boxes. I check a lot of these boxes, and probably you do too. So let's check it out. Being a woman. Being poor and able to support yourself. Being financially independent. Wait, weren't you supposed to be poor? You gather with other women without a male chaperone. Kidding me? Who wants a bunch of dudes hanging around when you're trying to get your girl talk on? You argue with one or more of these female friends. You argue with anyone. I'm screwed. You're very old. Old, young, rich, poor. Where are we going? What is this? You're married, but you don't have enough children. Your neighbors can't have children. And of course that's your fault because you don't have enough, but they can't have any. You have strange birth defects. Buckle up, you guys. Such as a scar, birthmark, or a third nipple. Has anybody ever actually seen somebody with a third nipple? Your buttermilk has gone bad in your fridge. You have sex before you're married. Sorry, Hollywood. It's all about witchcraft for you guys. You have tried to predict your future husband. How many of us met the love of our life in high school and spent the entire time in our notebooks when we should have been listening to the teacher, drawing little hearts around our names and putting our first name with his last name, and oh, it was going to be so magical. You've broken any rule in the Bible. I quit. I'm out. I'm done. I'm a witch. Sorry. You know what, guys? I think there's good news and bad news. The good news is I can't be executed for it, but the bad news is I think I might be a witch. I don't know. But if I was a witch, I couldn't hold this. and I couldn't hold this. This is a witch's ball, believed to capture evil spirits, ward off evil spirits, and generally bring a balance to your home. This is a witch's jar. Inside a witch's jar are several herbs and spices, some pointy sharp objects, a black candle, and some aluminum foil. This is meant to trap and ensnare demons and dangerous spirits. Now, something about Grace is she didn't have either one of these things in her house. So of course she has to be a witch. She didn't possess either one of those things. But do you think that maybe she didn't need to have them? Not because she was a witch, but because she just didn't feel the need to dabble in such frivolity and ridiculousness? She wanted more time on her farm? She wanted more time with her sons? Or do you think Grace didn't have them because she was actually a witch? Who knows? Till next time, guys.
I'll introduce
Can I say bullshit?
I think we'll get a. I don't think we can monetize if we have any cursing.
Okay. All right.
So maybe
I'll come up with something. It'll be a
it'll be
surprise.
amazing.
It'll be amazing.
Welcome back, friends. You have made it to the end credit scroll. This is Gina. Introduce me. Hey, friends. Welcome. Okay.
I was getting ready to, but I wasn't sure what you were doing. Okay.
All right. Hey, friends, and welcome back to the after credit scroll. Thanks for sticking out. Hey, friends, and welcome back to the after credit scroll. This is Gina.
And this is Rob.
Of course. And today we're here to share with you just a little bit of fun. We're gonna start again.
Yep.
So, friends, welcome back to the after party scroll. This is Gina.
Hey guys, and this is Rob.
Of course. And hey, how did you like that video? Lots of fun. What do you think? Yeah?
It was fun to shoot the video. It was. It wasn't necessarily fun to learn about how Grace was affected by.
Okay, so I had a blast
You know,
behind
I had a
the
blast
camera.
shooting it.
We had a good time.
Oh, I had an awesome time.
It took about 2 weeks to put this video together and everything. And what was your favorite part?
I think learning about Grace and learning about the misconceptions of the time and just how people's superstitions can get the better of them.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that my favorite part was actually just running around to see all the spots. I didn't really realize that Pungo, where Grace was ducked and everything, was not the same Pungo as what I think of today.
Yeah. So the turtle was my favorite part. That big giant dinner plate turtle thing that we saw. Yeah.
The turtle was pretty happy.
That was my favorite.
The turtle was happening.
Yeah. He was cool.
Well, we've been working on this. We got something else coming up. What's coming up in the next video?
Do you have something else coming up? I'm going to learn how to play a guitar.
Yeah?
And I'm hopefully going to learn how to play Steven Tyler featuring Santana song called
that's
Just
fun.
Feel Better.
Just Feel Better. There's a lot going on in the
There's
guitar.
a lot going on, you guys.
Got some air
a lot
guitar.
going on. Yep. So stay tuned because the really pretty long nails might have to go.
Uh-oh. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Guys, we want to thank you so much for watching, subscribing, liking, commenting, anything that you can do. Don't forget to go follow us on the socials. Where can they find us?
Oh, Adventure Charmed, always.
Always.
See you guys.
Bye. Bye. No?
Doing bye.
Bye. Matt David.